from Transformers Cyberverse Bumblebee's Cyberverse Adventures, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite deluxes and my favorite one-step changer, that being the Deluxe Arcee and the one-step changer Repugnus. So Cyberverse, an incredible toy line with some really striking designs and clever transformations. The people who were working on this were the LA design team, who'd go on to do the figures for Earthspark, Rise the Beast. They're doing the Transformers 1 designs right now. And if you've watched enough of my videos, you know I really love the LA design team. I think they have so many new, fresh ideas for Transformers, and I think these two really showed just how good their figures got as soon as they got past the learning curve of early Cyberverse. So let's take a look-see at both of them. Getting these two out of the box, they're great for different reasons, but reasons all the same. This Arcee, such a fun figure, but I'm sure you can notice the backpack. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And even though Repugnus might not look like much, you'll really see just how special he is once we start talking about his transformation. But first, let's look at Arcee. First, I just want to say I love Arcee's design from Cyberverse. It brings in so many great cues from the G1 cartoon, the original Marvel comic, some of the IDW stuff to make us a still very familiar Arcee, but one that is just a little bit more interesting compared to some of their contemporaries. Now, the backpack. Now, I know you would look at that and say like, oh, they did it again. They made an Arcee that doesn't actually transform. Here's the really weird thing. The Cyberverse team didn't know they were ever going to be able to make an Arcee. Keep in mind, when Cyberverse started out, they didn't have a deluxe class price point, and they had very few figures they were even allowed to produce in a year. They made this design more or less to joke about the fact that Arcee doesn't actually transform, and then they were given the ability to make the Arcee. So, it's a very weird thing where this was essentially a parody that became a reality. They worked themselves into a shoot. But I'm fine with it because, again, that is the design of this Arcee, that they have this massive backpack. And it does aid in bulking Arcee out. But even if you didn't have this, Arcee's already a good bit bulkier than most other Arcees. In terms of articulation, you have a ball joint at the head. It is a little bit hard to get there because of the hood up top. You have a ball joint for the shoulder, an upper arm cut, a good single jointed elbow, nothing in the wrist. You do have waist articulation, that's great, a ball joint at the hip, a good single jointed knee that might as well be double jointed, an upper leg cut, toe articulation. And you do have a little bit of side to side, but it does get impaired by the leg. So, that's a good suite of articulation. The backpack, believe it or not, isn't actually that much of a problem because look at that. They gave Arcee massive, massive heel spurs. That ensures that she's able to keep most poses you put her in. I also just want to give praise to the overall paint job and sculpting of this Arcee. I love the head sculpt here. I really think it's cool how they picked out the eyes with just that little bit of purple around the blue. Very smart. Alongside that, you might notice that there's this kind of weird color on Arcee. So when this figure first came out, that was white. For whatever reason, even if it's not in sunlight, all Arcees just start yellowing. And eventually, most of them will just outright become orange. And the joke is, essentially, since the G1 Arcee was supposed to be pink and orange, a repaint of Blur, this Arcee is more or less just saying, I'm going to be what I was meant to be. In terms of why it happens, we don't really know. Pandemic era plastic. That's the best we kind of got to go with. Something similar to how Legacy Motormaster had issues yellowing. Weirdly enough though, I don't mind the yellowing. It actually helps break up her color scheme really well. The figure looks better with the plastic deteriorating. It's a bit strange. Now in terms of accessories with Arcee, we have this, just a good pistol. It looks nice, bulky, very space gunny. And you get two blast effects. Very nice, you can just put them over the barrels. So the blast effects are cool, don't get me wrong, I like them a lot. Do not keep those on the barrel. I don't know why, but for some reason, with blast effects and Transformers, it will eventually result in the tips that you've put the blast effects on drying out and falling off. There's a lot of Siege figures right now that are missing their blaster ports because they kept the blast effects on too long. I don't know why it happens. No one seems to know why it happens. It's just a weirdness of the plastic material. I remember years ago when this Arcee came out, I honestly thought it was one of the best Arcees ever. And over half a decade later, I still think that. It is still a spectacular little Arcee. But hey, don't forget about Repugnus. Now, Repugnus was great in Cyberverse because he essentially came from a whole, colony of other Repugnuses. This is our usual Repugnus, G1 Repugnus. And the weird thing is, this is like a perfect recreation of his G1 toy, right down to the color placement. I know people complained about there being no paint in his eyes. There is paint there. It's very hard to see, especially on camera. He has silver eyes. They, deco matched it to the G1 figure. Now, what's really cool, this is a one-step changer with the ball joint in the shoulder, ball joint in the elbow. This was back when one-step changers could have articulation, and it's good articulation. In terms of how you transform Repugnus, boom, he just kind of flips over. Oop, here I'm missing something up here. No, I'm not. There we go. So we have Repugnus. We'll move everything over. Boop, boop. And he has a different gimmick. His pinchers can go up and down. So this is a one-step changer with a different pincher gimmick and articulation. The figure looks great in both molds. Again, this is an awesome recreation of G1 Repugnus's Beast Mode. This is the best one-step changer. It is. The only one that even comes close, in my opinion, is the Cyberverse Skybite. This is the best of this type of Arcee ever made, in my humble opinion. I really, really, really enjoy it. I really enjoy both these figures. I think they are standouts from the Cyberverse line. And if you ever want to go back and just see how this team, this B team, this LA design team really start to find their footing before going into Earthspark, Rise of the Beasts, where they were making better figures than even the Hasbro A team a lot of the time, these are the figures to kind of check out. These final deluxes and these one-step changers were really showing just how outside the box they were getting, even when Hasbro was not giving them the budget they rightly deserved. Arcee and Repugnus, big thumbs up from me. They both go for pretty little money, so if you have an extra, 10, 15 bucks kicking around, you can definitely get that Arcee for cheap. And Repugnus, he's probably going to be more expensive than Arcee, but not much more expensive. Two spectacular little figures.